before you get there.
Facts. You gotta make it to the league.
That's right. That's right. Keep grinding, right?
Trying.
And I mean, what you just did is a big step.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And then that social media game's got to be real. So get that word,
I'm
get the
learning
word
that.
out there.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody like? Because I know there's people that have teams. Like, do you have anybody helping you out that does that for you yet?
Nah.
Not yet.
No.
That'll be the next step.
Like I
Just
said, nah, I do it. My agent will give me tips here and there.
Sure, sure. Find someone you trust that's a friend or something,
Yeah.
and help you out. That'll.
We didn't have all that when I was growing up. So.
Right. No kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. We're back, Saturday Sports Showcase, and we're talking my favorite sport, absolutely, without a doubt, to Khadija Brown-Haywood. We're going to talk basketball, as not only is she a professional basketball player who just won the ship over at her professional league, but she is coming back and just helping out area youth. So, Khadija, we appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get going on all the excitement that's been going on over the past few weeks, let's recap people from the journey that you've been on. So tell us how did it become that you're a professional basketball player now over in Kosovo?
Well, growing up, it's always been a dream. You know, always loved basketball. Playing at college was always something I aspired to do. So, you know, played at the Centralia High School under Coach Roger Steig. And then from there, my great uncle, that a lot of people don't know, Shelby Haywood Keckler, he actually played Division I at Arkansas State University. So he has connections there. So, you know, we saw that I wasn't really getting heavily recruited aside from some, you know, KC, Wabash, just local JUCOs, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But we knew that the talent that I possessed and I could make an impact at a higher level. So, you know, he reached out to his contacts there. My coach, Brian Boyer, came out, saw us playing our regional game my senior year, and was like, I want her. So, you know, he came on a visit, and then my family went there for a visit, and I signed that intent right then and there.
That's right.
You know, that was back in 2012. Yeah, back in 2012, went on, you know, first 2 years is kind of a struggle, you know, being a small town kid and not really having that exposure to all these big talents, you know, from Texas and New York and Cali. So, was a struggle, but my junior year was my breakout year. Did great, was a starter my last 2 years. Ended up 23rd in school history to score over 1,000 points. Also was, you know, top of, you know, rebounding my career. From there, had to begin the search of finding an agent. You know, trying to find somebody who was on the same page as I was, with the same goals that I was trying to reach. Went through a few.
Oh, sure.
Went through a few trying to find the right fit, but my career started in 2017 in Mexico.
Okay, so as soon as you have your breakout year, your junior year, is it at that point you start thinking ahead, okay, what's the steps now? What's going to happen in 2 years when I'm done, and how do I get there? Like, does that start that early as a junior? Like, okay, I got to figure out how does this work? You know what I mean?
Well, I wouldn't even say it started then. I've always had that mindset of wanting to play professionally even before then.
Sure.
I just knew that college was, you know, the path that I had to take to get there. You
Absolutely.
know, women aren't as lucky as men to just play 1 year of college and then declare for the draft.
Right.
You know, we have to graduate. We have to, you know, get our degree and be 21, I think, to enter the draft.
Right.
So, you know, the rules and stipulations are different, but I just knew that I was overseas was going to have to be the route I took first and get that experience to even have a chance at being able to play at the WNBA.
So you go to Mexico and you
Yes.
start your professional career down there.
Yes.
So how did that go?
That year was a struggle. It was just because when you go overseas, nobody tells you how different the living situations and the customs and the culture of how they live
On
are.
top of just the basketball, there's so much other
Yes,
stuff.
and the language barrier, of course, you know, that's expected. But, you know, when I first got there, they had, I think it was 4 or 5 of us women, not even in the home, but in one room with bunk beds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then with the heat, the house, there's no air conditioning, there's no central air, you know, there's none of those things. So, I mean, just having to struggle with your environment and then having to deal with the language barrier and the different basketball and, you know, the level of intensity just increases times 1,000.
I would think that there's probably a lot of athletes who think, okay, I want to be a pro basketball player, and then they get in a situation that you were in Mexico your first year, and they think while they're laying in their bunk bed, sweating, no air, thinking, I'm a pro and this is what I'm doing. So do I really want to? I'm sure there's a lot of people that kind of breaks.
Absolutely.
So to persevere through that is something.
It almost broke me.
Sure.
Just because I'm like, do I really want to go through this every time I'm coming over here when I can go home and make 3 times the amount of money I'm making in a month?
Right.
You know, actually working is, you know what I'm saying? So, but just just knowing that and having to remind myself that this is just the beginning.
Right.
Like I'm a rookie, so rookies. I'm starting over again, just at a professional level. So rookies have to go through these things. Things are just different overseas. If I can just buy my time and do my job on the court, then those better opportunities will come, those better contracts will come, which will equal better living situations. And
you might get some air conditioning down the road. Yeah.
Exactly, things of that nature.
So after the first year, did you come back to Mexico for a second year? What was the transition?
I did not. No. So after that first year, it was I wouldn't really say a struggle. Had to buy time to try to find what the next fit was, what the next best move for my career. Because I knew I didn't want to go back to Mexico. I didn't want to go back to that situation. I'm like, I need something different and something to where I can really show my talent, showcase my talent, because I didn't get a chance to do that in Mexico.
Right.
So, because I suffered an injury, all those type of things. So I ended up starting, which I started in Mexico, but it really began in Kosovo, Europe, in 2018, the spring of 2018, winter. So it was in that January to May part of the season. So went over there. I meshed with the girls great. The staff was amazing. Again, situation was different, but at least I had my own room. I had my own bathroom. I had AC, heat, all that.
You're good there.
Yeah, the only thing that I struggled with was the 12-inch snow outside that I had to walk through and deal with.
Right.
But that was a great season. We went undefeated, won the championship. It was great. So won my first pro championship there. Then I kind of, it was some mental things that I had to kind of deal with. So I took another break. And then I went back to Kosovo in 2019-2020 season. Again, going great, undefeated. We're winning the cup games throughout the middle of the season, doing all those things. Then COVID hits.
Oh, yeah.
COVID hits. The season ends. Technically, we won, but we didn't get to play the the finals. And so the COVID hits, then I had some family issues going on with my sister getting sick from lupus and all those things. And nobody was flying overseas to really play then anyway because of COVID, having to deal with vaccinations and all those type of things. There's no basketball. Nobody's contacting me or my agent for anything. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to live my life.
Yeah.
So I packed up in June 2021, went to Texas. Met a great group of girls there, started playing pickup basketball 3-4 times a week, like just loving it. And they're like, why don't you go back and play? Like, why are you not playing? Like, what is wrong with you? You're crazy. And I'm like, there was nobody hitting me up or contacting me, my agent, there was nothing happening. So then I decided, well, let me do this thing. Let me try to find a female agent who focuses more on me as a person rather than my career. So I ended up hooking up with Shawana Jordan, who was based out of Chicago, but she's now in Texas, who owns and started the one and only female based sports agency.
Oh, wow.
And it's not just basketball. We have basketball, we have soccer, we have volleyball, softball, lacrosse, everything. You name it, we got it. So I ended up calling her, making contact with her, and we spoke on the phone, I think, for 3 hours, our first conversation.
Wow. Connection instantly, huh?
Instantly, and we just had the same mindset. We both from Illinois, even though she's from Chicago. I'm Centralia.
It's still Illinois.
Yeah, it's still Illinois. It's the Midwest.
That's
so we meshed perfectly, and from then on, literally, I met with her. I think late March. Literally, that next week, she said, "I got a contract for you in Mexico for 4 figures."
Wow.
Let's
Let's go.
And from then, she's like, I literally been working. So I went from Mexico. That season ended in June. By late August, I was in Nicaragua. Went there. Almost, I won All-Star MVP there from Nicaragua. Then Kosovo hit me back, said, hey, we want you back. Like, we can have more Americans now instead of just 2. We can have 4.
Oh, wow.
Like, we have a better team, coaching staff. Let's get it. So I was like, cool. Took Thanksgiving, Christmas off, spent with family. January, I'm right back at it. Ended up going great. I won the MVP and we won the cup game. Then finals comes, I win the MVP and we win a championship. And now I'm back home and now we're getting ready to talk about the camp.
That's right. And you're looking for that ultimate step. How exciting was it, your first trip to Mexico, thinking, okay, I'm here, I'm grinding it out, to now you go back with a plan, with someone in your corner, with a game plan that get through this, because it's going to take us here. I mean, that had to have been such a mind switch.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like, I can literally call and talk to her about anything. And it's not always just basketball. Like, yeah, we'll talk about that, get that out the way, but then we get to the juicy stuff. Okay, what's going on with you? How are you mentally? What are you doing to deal with that? And just being able to talk and kind of vent to her about those things, and her really sit there and listen and kind of just let me get it out, because once I get it out, then I can figure out how to do it.
Sure.
Like, I'm not seeking, somebody to tell me what to do. I just need somebody to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And she does that for me. She's great. Like, I love her. So.
Well, that's awesome. And then when you win the ship, you win the MVP. Now you're coming back and giving back, and just excited. Just had your first camp, right?
Absolutely. It was amazing, because I've always wanted to do something to give back to the community. Like growing up in early 2000s, there weren't really camps here.
Mm-hmm.
We had the rec center, or you had travel basketball, but nothing really in Centralia for somebody to give back who's actually from here, who's been over there, who's done what these kids are trying to aspire to do. And me being the first person to have done that, especially a female, I'm like, I have to find a way to give back to these kids. So I spoke to my agent about it. I was like, hey, I had this idea. And she was like, what you talking to me for? Go do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so go be the first. Like, because we're all about being the first.
Sure.
So I already had a logo design. One of my uncle's friends had done it for me, because I was trying to, want to kind of start a clothing line, something like that. But I'm like, nah, let's take a different route. Let's go with a camp.
Yeah.
So I ended up contacting the high school, seeing if they were available. They said yes. Let's do it. What time do you need it? What day? Like, let's get it. Like, you just show up, bring the kids. We'll have the balls, the tables, everything you need. Just show up. Got my family involved, and the sign-ups took off. Took off. Once I made that post, I think I made on a Tuesday. By Thursday, I had over 50 registrations.
Wow. It's hungry. We know about Centralia, and we know about Centralia basketball. The thing is, orphans is what we hear about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Annie's, I mean, that hunger is there with young girls that want to play at Trout and all this stuff, but they need someone like you that's gotten out, that's done it, that's doing it, and that they can look up to. And man, it's amazing.
Yeah, and like I said, there's no one here who's a female that can, like you said, can relate to these girls. Like, we have all these male coaches and things and that, but I'm like, what about the girls?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my thing. I was like, do I really want to make this camp just for the girls? And I'm like, no, let's include the boys. And then I hope this can become an annual thing, so that way I can have more time and I can spread it out and have just one for the girls and one for the boys.
Sure.
And just really focus on these females, because the way that the women's game is taken off now, we have to inspire and encourage these girls to go after it.
Sure.
Like, yeah, you can go after volleyball, softball, these other things, but if you really want basketball, like, it's going to take some hard work, but they just need somebody to believe in them and to visually see that example that she did it, I can do it.
That's right. See, people like you coming back and giving back, and then watching Caitlin Clark, LSU, South Carolina on that Final Four. All those games were fantastic. So if you get that on top of what you're doing, man, it's sky's the limit. But we're not done with basketball quite yet. You got a lot of goals to meet, and we wish you nothing but the best.
I appreciate it. It's nothing but God and just me being blessed. It takes hard work, but God has, just set out this plan for me, and I just had to do my part.
Sure.
So I'm just happy to do it.
We are pawns in his game of chess.
Absolutely.
All right, Khadija, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a break and come back with more after this.
Letting you know about this.
Awesome.
That was a really good.
I appreciate
If you don't mind.